If you grew up with abuse, you probably promised yourself you'd never be like your abuser. But what happens when the pain you ran away from becomes the pain you now inflict on others yourself? This video is for every person who's been abused and now fears they're becoming what they hated when it was done to them. It's for people who said, "The abuse stops with me." But somehow, years later, they find the same anger, the same silence, the same abuse being vented by them. In other words, the abused has become the abuser. This story is for you. Sadly, abuse doesn't always end when childhood ends. Sometimes it grows quiet, until one day you hear it in your own voice. There is a truth most people don't want to face, and that truth is that every hurt we don't heal from finds a way to come back. Sometimes through our words, sometimes through our silence, and sometimes through the people we love the most. This is not a story about villains. It is a story about cycles. The ones that start quietly, inside broken childhoods, and echo through generations until someone decides to stop them. One of such persons was Monica. And for most of her life, Monica believed she had already stopped the cycle of abuse. But pain has a memory. It waits. Monica grew up in a small house with blue walls and too many secrets. Her father was a respected man in the community, a church deacon, always smiling in public, always quoting scripture. But behind closed doors, he was someone else. He told her, "Don't tell anyone." Every time he came into her room at night to abuse her. Her mother knew, though she never said it out loud. Sometimes Monica would catch her mother's eyes across the dinner table. Those tired eyes that said, "I see it too, but I can't help you." So, Monica learned early that pain could live in the same house as prayer. She learned that being good, quiet, and obedient was safer than being loud, angry, or seen. When she turned 14, she made herself a promise. "I will never be like them. Never." She whispered it like a prayer. She thought it would protect her. She thought her promises to herself could erase pain. Monica became an adult long before she stopped being a child. At school, she was the girl who always helped others, the one who smiled even when she was tired, the one the teachers praised for being mature for her age. But no one knew that mature really meant wounded but pretending. When friends talked about their crushes, she smiled politely. She didn't tell them that the word touch made her flinch, or that the word lovemaking made her stomach turn. She didn't tell them that some nights she still woke up crying without knowing why. Pain taught her to hide, so she became excellent at pretending to be okay, pretending to be over it, pretending that she didn't need love, and that pretending worked. Until it didn't. Monica met Daniel in her 20s. He was charming, confident, and the kind of man who made people laugh. When he looked at her, she felt seen in a way she had never felt before. He told her she was beautiful, and she believed him. Maybe for the first time in her life, she was willing to trust a man. They got married quickly, and for a while, she thought she had finally escaped the ghosts of her childhood. But slowly, little things began to change. Daniel started raising his voice more often. He criticized her cooking, her clothes, her friends. Sometimes, when she disagreed with him, he would grab her wrist a little too tight. He would apologize afterward, bring flowers, say it would never happen again. It felt familiar. Too familiar. But she stayed, because her mother once stayed. Because she didn't know what normal love looked like. Because a part of her believed she somehow deserved it. After all, she had been taught that love and pain were always connected. When Monica gave birth to a daughter, she cried in the hospital, not from joy, but from fear. She looked at the tiny face and thought, I will protect you. You will never know what I knew. And for a few years, she did everything right. She played, she cooked, she worked. But the stress of marriage, bills, and the unspoken past began to press on her like heavy stones. One night, her daughter accidentally spilled milk on the couch. It was such a small thing, but something inside Monica snapped. Her voice rose like thunder. She shouted words she didn't mean, and then she saw it. Her daughter's face frozen in fear, eyes wide, lips trembling. In that moment, Monica saw herself. Not as a mother, but as a child. The same child who once stood in silence, afraid to breathe. The same child whose mother screamed at, rather than protect her. She ran to the bathroom, locked the door, and cried until her body shook. She whispered the same question over and over. How did I become this? Psychologists have a name for what Monica was experiencing. It's called repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to recreate familiar pain. It's not madness, it's survival. When a child grows up in trauma, their brain learns to expect it. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar peace. So, without realizing it, they seek out the same emotional patterns. The same anger, the same rejection, the same fear. The brain isn't trying to hurt them. It's trying to fix what was broken, but it keeps choosing the same wound, hoping for a different ending. Monica wasn't evil. She was just repeating what her body remembered. She had never learned how to be gentle with herself, so she didn't know how to be gentle with others. Meanwhile, the fights with Daniel grew worse. He became distant. Their daughter grew quiet, too reserved for her age. One evening, after a shouting match that ended with a broken plate and tears, Daniel walked out. He didn't come back that night. The house felt empty, but it also felt honest for the first time. Monica took her rage out on her daughter. She was mean to her. She screamed at her. She starved her. She was punishing her and abusing her for something that was not her fault. Wow. Monica, the abused, was now the abuser. Weeks after Daniel left, Monica couldn't look at herself in the mirror. Her reflection felt like a stranger. She hadn't realized how much anger had carved into her face, how much pain she had been carrying, how much she had been abusing her daughter. For the first time, she saw not a wife or a mother, but a woman trapped between two versions of herself. The child who was hurt and the adult who now hurt others. That was the day she decided she couldn't keep living this way. She started therapy, and therapy felt strange at first. She had spent her whole life keeping secrets, and now she was expected to tell them. But her therapist's voice was calm, patient, and kind. When Monica told her about her father, she braced herself for disbelief. But the therapist didn't flinch. She looked at her with compassion and said, "You didn't deserve that. You did not deserve any of it." And for a moment, Monica couldn't breathe. No one had ever said those words to her. No one had ever believed her. No one had ever understood. In the weeks that followed, she learned how trauma hides inside the body, in the muscles, the breath, the heartbeat, and in the actions we take that may be similar to what we ourselves suffered. She learned that shouting wasn't just anger. It was fear dressed up as control. She learned that the same brain that once protected her had made her an abuser herself. But thankfully, that same brain could also help her heal. Some days she cried so hard she could barely speak. Other days she left therapy feeling lighter, as if a piece of the darkness had finally lifted. And slowly, she began to write. Letters to her younger self, to her daughter, to her mother. Some letters she mailed, most she didn't. but each word she wrote felt like stitching torn fabric back together. Months passed. Daniel never came back. Her daughter stayed with her sister for a while. In fact, her daughter was so terrified of her that Monica felt she was safer with her auntie, far away from her mother. But healing has its own rhythm, and it took time, and all the while Monica felt shame. One afternoon, her daughter called. Her voice was soft. "Mom, I miss you. Can I come home?" Monica cried. Not from guilt this time, but from grace. That night, they sat together on the couch. The silence between them was no longer heavy. Her daughter asked, "Mom, why were you always angry? Why do you hurt me?" Monica looked at her and said the truth for the first time. "Because I was hurting, even when I didn't know it. And I hurt you because I was hurt myself, but I'm trying to stop. I don't want you to carry what I carried." Her daughter didn't say much. She simply leaned against her. And in that small act, Monica realized something. Forgiveness isn't always spoken. Sometimes it's felt. There are so many Monicas in this world. Women who were hurt as children, who carry invisible bruises into their marriages, who promise themselves they'll never be like their parents, and yet find themselves shouting, slamming doors, or staying with people who break them again. Men who were abused as children, who hated being abused and made a promise never to abuse others, but who now find themselves being abusers of one form or the other. People who were so broken from abuse that they carry so much hurt and unforgiveness that now affects everything, especially their relationship with others. In other words, there are so many abused people who, despite hating being abused, are not abusers themselves. Now, if this is you, I understand. You have become an abuser yourself, not because they are weak, no. Not because you are a bad person, no. It's because trauma blurs the line between love and fear. It confuses the nervous system. It tells you that calm is dangerous and chaos is where you should be. Maybe you see yourself in Monica. Maybe you were hurt in ways you never talk about. Maybe you swore you would never become like the ones who hurt you. But sometimes, without meaning to, pain repeats itself. And when it does, shame follows. This is not to condemn you. This is to remind you that cycles can break, that you can stop here, that the person you used to be doesn't have to be the person you choose to be. If you are living with guilt for the way you have treated others, start with this truth. You are not beyond healing. You are not your abuser's reflection. You are someone who was hurt and who deserves a chance to heal differently. If you are in an abusive marriage, please know that silence is not love. Endurance is not strength. You do not owe your suffering to anyone's comfort. You have permission to leave. You have permission to begin again, because peace is not too much to ask for. And if you are someone who has hurt others, especially those you love, acknowledge it. See it for what it is. Say it. Apologize. Then learn how to do better. Because what's unhealed in you will always reach for others. But what's healed in you can save them and save you. Psychologists say that trauma can pass from one generation to another, not through genes, but through behavior, silence, and emotional memory. But there is hope, because that abuse can stop with you no matter how much of an abuser you have become. You just need to decide that the story changes with you. Healing doesn't mean the past disappears. It means it no longer controls the future. As for Monica, she learned this slowly. Every time she apologized, she rewrote a part of her history. Every time she comforted her daughter instead of yelling, she changed the script. Every time she spoke about what happened, instead of hiding it, she took power away from her shame. There is something powerful about turning pain into light. When Monica began to share her story, people reached out to her. Women, men, survivors of abuse just like her, all saying the same thing. I thought I was the only one. She realized that shame thrives in silence, but dies in connection. And so, she kept sharing. Not for attention, but for liberation. If you have lived through what Monica lived through, your story matters too. You don't have to have the perfect words. You don't have to sound brave. Just speak, write, share. Because somewhere out there, another person is sitting in silence, believing they're the only one. And your story might be the voice that tells them they're not alone. Abuse changes people, yes, but awareness changes generations. You can't undo the pain you lived through. You can only decide what it becomes next. Let it become wisdom. Let it become empathy. Let it become the reason someone else finally chooses to heal. If this story felt like yours, please share your story in the comments. It might be the light someone else has been waiting for. Because pain passes through people, but so does healing. And maybe tonight, it starts with you.